Alright, so we're going to look at counting, and specifically, we're going to be looking at counting for the idea of figuring out probability, which is the bedrock of statistics. And this is a particular area in mathematics that is actually non-intuitive. Generally because the numbers we deal with get so big quickly that we have a hard time grasping the concepts. And the first thing we're going to look at, counting principles should show us how this complexity arises. People have a hard time looking at large numbers and getting a feel for them. And this is probably sometimes why there's a lot of misunderstandings in what statistics mean or how statistics are applied, because it takes careful looking at things. And so I'm going to start with an example. And the example I like starting with is a wedding menu. Right, you get invited to a wedding, and you'll have a choice of protein, usually like beef, chicken, maybe a fish, and then some type of starch, like rice and potato, and then a veg, corn, green beans, I'll say peas, and then the dessert. And there's some description here. I'm just keeping these minimal. And so, let's say I get beef, rice, and corn. Well, there's 3 possible meals of that: beef, rice, corn pie, beef, rice, corn cake, beef, rice, corn pudding. And then in my next option, I could get beef, rice, green beans, and there's 3 of those. And then I could try, beef, rice, and beef, rice, and peas, and I could get 3 of those. And so on, and so on, and so on. And the number of distinct meals is actually fairly large. And what we'll look at here is I'll sneak. There's 3 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, and 3 of these. So there's 6, 18, 54 distinct meals that could be made from these. Now, mentally, we sometimes say, well, you wouldn't have rice with beef, right? That's not as common. Or we don't always have chicken with potato, right? There are certain combinations that we don't think about, so we don't put them into the count here. But then it should be seen that really quickly the number of distinct options rise rather quickly. And the thing we'll see when we start counting up all the possibilities of things to make probabilities is that we very quickly deal with large numbers of options. And so we have to find ways to count. And so we start with the fundamental counting principle. So, and the fundamental counting principle is if you can choose from a group with m items and a second group with n items, the total possible two-item choices is m times n. In fact, if there are t choices total with options M1, M2, and so on up to MT, your distinct combinations is the multiplication of all the choices. And so the fundamental counting principle really says the choices that you have, you multiply all of the options. And so I'm going to look at a couple examples. So if there's a restaurant that has 6 appetizers and 14 main courses, then the total meals you can make are 6 times 14, or 84. And so from these two choices, there's 84 distinct things you can have. Another example. Let's say that you're looking at taking a math course. Whoops, I want to change my colors here. I'm going through some of the examples in the book. A math course that has 8 time slots, 8 sections. An English course that has 5 sections, 5 time slots. And a humanities that has 4 time slots. If none of the time slots overlap, then you have a possible 8 times 5 times 4, or 160 schedules you could make out of those 3 courses. And so the ability to have options go through, the book actually gives a really nice example. If there's a multiple choice test, so you have a multiple choice test with 10 questions. And 4 choices per question. Then you have 4 times 4 times 4 10 times, or 4 to the 10th possible ways to answer the multiple choice, or about 1 million. So if you randomly guessed, there would be 1 million possibilities. And in fact, your ability to randomly guess all the correct answers would be 1 in 1,048,576. But notice in all of these things, in the fundamental counting principle, we multiply all of the options by the number of distinct things we can choose.